Welcome back, everyone. This is our second to the last lesson. Okay, so we have one more time together this year, and that will be next Monday, and we will be in the same place again. Let me push OK for that. Okay. And so I invite any of you who are in the Bolzano area to come to see us so we can celebrate our last time together. Okay. If you can't come in person, no problem. You can still follow us online. Today will be a little bit more interactive with the people who are online because normally when I'm in person, I'm more interactive with the people who are in the room. So this time it's a change. So if you're in the room at Chadoc's, hello, I'm happy to see you, and I hope I see you again next week as well. So today the theme of our lesson was called What the Kids Are Listening to Today. Because in the past we did one lesson we did a lesson on the 1920s, a lesson on the 1930s, and we've been going ahead until we reached last week where we talked about the birth of hip hop. And today we're talking in general about what parents think about their kids' music. But I also want to talk to you about what parents really did say in the past about their kids' music. So I'm going to share my screen with you because I have some discussion questions for you. You know, I love to talk about these things. I'm going to share my screen. Oops, but I have to ask Simone, ci sei? Non sono amministratore, so I can't share my screen.
Okay, I'll fix.
Thank you. Bruna, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm sorry, but I
Try,
saw
try
your
now.
message.
Okay. Tell me, Bruna, I'm listening.
I saw your message too late to share
Oh,
the
don't
link.
worry, I got it. I got it. It was
Sorry,
okay.
sorry.
Oh, don't worry. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Yeah.
It
Yes,
says
yes,
American Music Lesson
yes.
5. Okay, good. That's what I want to share with you. But I first want to check in with you. I'll stop sharing for the moment. Okay. Oh, Suzanne is here. Hi, Suzanne. How are you? Suzanne, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Your microphone is off. Maybe you're just checking in. I can come back to you. Silvio, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
challenging weekend. I had a challenging weekend.
Okay, I understand. Okay, well, we'll see you next week. You can tell me all about it then, okay?
Yeah,
Lanfranco, how are
sure.
you today?
Everything is well.
You're
But
okay?
it is too
Good.
cold. It is too cold today.
It's here it's raining. In Trieste, it's raining like
In
crazy.
Bolzano it's cold. With bicycle it's hard to go.
Yeah,
But anyway, we are going to survive.
we'll survive. We'll get through this one too. I made a little fire over here. You want to see my fire?
Oh, wonderful,
Oh,
Yeah, I
wonderful.
made a little
We are
fire.
nearly a
Gosh, I never make
fireplace.
a fire up here. I'm gonna do that so I could have a little cozy time with my friends online today. All right, I see. Christina, how are you today? Is your name Christina?
her microphone is off.
Your microphone is up, yeah. Oh, I can't hear you because your microphone is off. Oh, or you can write in the chat if you have a difficult time speaking. Because you can hear me, I think, but I can't hear you speak. Oh, now try. Oh, perfect. Are you okay today? You're good? Okay, good. And who else? I have Suzanne. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you. Very
Nice to
happy.
see you too.
Good. And then in the room, I don't know who's in the room in Docs. Who's over there? Anybody I know? I can't see you. Can I hear you? There's someone in the Docs room. I hope so. Okay, if you're there or not, I hope you're there. Is there echoing? We might have to keep off your microphone unless you're speaking, but I do want to have some discussion questions, so I'll give you a chance to talk, or you can write in the chat if you'd like. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Again, if you're just getting on, you can also get the lesson is in the chat. Okay, can you see my screen? Suzanne, you're my tech person. Can you
Yeah?
see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the title again, I just made a Google Doc and I made this because it's so easy to share. So if you just click on there onto the link in the chat, you can get access to this. If you're watching from the big screen, maybe I'm going to make it bigger here so you can see it. Is that easier for you to see? It's okay? All right. All right. Oops, where did I go? I just lost my thing again. Okay, here we are. So our lesson today is called What the Kids Are Listening to. Next week, we will also be together in presence and if you're at home, make sure you have another device so we can do a Kahoot. We're going to have a game next week, okay? So my first discussion question for today is what decade, okay, it looks like décade, but we say decade, or genre, we use the French word genre to talk about a genre of music. What type of music from our lessons did you find the most interesting? And I'm not asking what's your favorite, but what did you find the most interesting about the lessons that we did so far? So I'm going to give you a moment to think about that question. What decade or genre of music from our lessons did you find the most interesting? Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so I can see some of your faces. Okay. I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite? What do you think was the most interesting? I'm going to start with Suzanne.
For
Gotta
me,
turn on your
Yeah,
microphone.
so I wasn't here for all the lessons, but I loved last week once because it
The last,
was, yeah, about hip hop. I love that. Yeah.
what did you like about it? What did you find? Is it, well, two questions. One is it your preferred kind of music, or is it just that you just thought some of the things were interesting
No, it's
about it?
not my favorite kind of music, but I think that I could understand better many things of some singers, songwriters, also from Italy. And so many things were clearer for me. So
Okay,
that's
so you
why
learned
I
something
like
you
that.
didn't know, so
Yeah,
that made it
yeah,
interesting for you. And I
yeah,
know that
yeah.
you went down the rabbit hole. Do you know that expression? You know it,
Yeah.
Suzanne, but maybe some of you don't know. When we say that you get interested in something, and so you start looking at different pages, and you go here, and that leads you to another one. It leads you to another one, and 30 minutes pass, and you thought it was 5 minutes. We call that expression is called going down the rabbit hole. And it refers to Alice in Wonderland when she goes
Yeah.
down into the hole and discovers a whole new world. Sometimes when I write these lessons, I also go down the rabbit hole. I find things that I never knew about. And Suzanne told me last week that she went down the rabbit hole about breakdancing, I think, right? Was that
Yeah.
what you got interested in? I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Good. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Silvio, what do you think is the most interesting? You were at all the lessons, so what did you find the most interesting, even if it
Yeah.
wasn't your favorite kind of music?
Well, I would say 90s because there was a large varieties of different genre in the 90s. So I would say it would be the best decade of music. The the sound was very melodic, I would say. I
Okay,
found
is there a
many
genre that you
melodic,
liked in particular?
uh, almost all 90s song.
Almost all 90s songs. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, good. All right. What about Lanfranco?
His
Can't hear you though. You
microphone.
have to turn on your microphone. Still can't hear you.
Okay,
There you are.
it's possible. Now I am undecided between the 20s, the jazz era, and the swing era. The swing,
And what's the second one? The swing
the,
era.
the,
So the
the swing
20s and the
era.
30s for you.
Yeah, 2030s. And the 20s because of Scott Fitzgerald, Grant Gatsby, the music, the booze era, no, with the big heavy drinking. And the 30s because there are began it start to be the era of the crooners, no?
Okay, so you're interested in the crooners.
Jimmy Durant and so on, no? Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, all all Italians, but Nat King Cole, of course, no. But the other were were all Italians and very romantic singers, no.
Thank you. Good. What about you, Bruna?
Uh, I appreciate mostly the country music, um, even though it was completely different from what I thought about country music. No, all of them were really interesting because I was and I am I am I am
Still.
I am still totally ignorant about American music and in general about music. So I could discover some interesting things in every lesson.
Good. Thank you. And I think that when we went into the country music lesson, you were thinking more about what I would consider folk music. So
Okay.
right? Some of that, but interestingly, some of those singers were also crossover. They were popular as country music singers also. Like, Woody Guthrie would be one who was considered both. You talked about James Taylor later
Yeah.
on, but there were definitely overlaps in that. So I can understand how you can get them confused. But I think because there's no perfect genre, because all of these genres stole from each other or were inspired by each other. So I think it's interesting that you said that because I could definitely see where you got that notion from. And I agree with you. I think there are definitely aspects and they could be considered both. Just like, Dolly Parton was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and she's definitely country, but she said she can do any genre but not rap. She said that she just can't go there, but the other one she could. What about Christina? I don't know if is your microphone working? Is there a genre that you like? I'm sorry, I'm having the fan for my thing just turned on. I can't hear anything. If you want, you can type it into the chat because I had a hard time hearing you. To go to the chat, you can go to the bottom. There should be a button that says chat, and if you push that. Hmm? I'm just writing in the chat so you can see because I can't quite hear it because there's noise in my room. I might have to find my headphones. Sorry about that, Christine. If you can type the genre, put it in the chat, that would be the best. Okay. All right. I think I got everybody that's online. Is there anybody I missed? Nope, I think I got everybody. Except for Christine, I couldn't quite hear it. So I'm going to share my screen again because, well, I think I should ask myself the same question. In looking at all the genres, I thought I was going to be for the 1940s because that's a genre that I've always, the swing, swing music, big band music has always been my favorite. But I have to say that I was very inspired and surprised by country music. I liked it better than I thought because it had some subversive elements that I didn't know about. I had some prejudices about it. I thought it was one thing, but I actually found out that it was much more interesting than I thought. So in writing the lessons, I learned a lot of things, even about the
But
hip hop
Sorry,
about
but
that.
maybe
Oh,
you.
thank you, Christina. You wrote rap. Okay, so that for you was interesting. Thank you. Good. So while I was sitting here, I showed you my fireplace. Well, I forgot that when it gets hot enough, it turns on a fan, so it heats my house, which is wonderful, but it's a little bit noisy. Sorry about that. So
Sorry,
I
for
am going
me,
to
you enjoyed more the rock, the country rock, the country rock, not real the
country rock.
country,
That's what you
the
like
country rock.
as a
Yeah,
genre?
the country, the really cowboy music is another thing, no? But you
Sure.
discovered the country rock that is a
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
development, no?
It's
It's not
interesting stuff, right?
100% country.
Yeah, well, nothing is 100% anything, right? That's what I learned doing these lessons is everything has its influences. So, what I thought we would go to at this moment, as I've got a second question for you. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And my second question is, what do kids listen to these days and what do you think of it and why? Okay. What are kids listening to that you know of? Even if you don't have children, you don't have to have children to be able to try to respond to this one. But I'm curious, what are they listening to in your opinion, and what do you think about it? Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing again so I can see you better. All right, who do I start with it for now? Again, you can write in the chat or you can tell me. Christina says, I think techno. Good. Okay. Techno music, like electronic music. Any other answers?
Rap, trap,
Rap
pop, I
Rap,
think.
trap.
and pop too.
Taylor Swift, of course, is
Yes.
taking over the world.
Yeah.
What else are people listening to?
Maybe also the sound. It depends on what we consider kids. What, yeah, but maybe also the soundtracks of cartoons or maybe series. I don't know,
Yeah, that's an interesting
some
point, Bruna.
jingle. No, not jingle,
Sure.
but what do you mean? What do you call?
Like soundtracks you're
Yeah,
talking about?
soundtracks.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, see, Taylor Swift, house music, techno, rap. Yeah, and it's true that a lot of music is coming just from TV series,
Series.
film soundtracks, and I'm impressed with how good the soundtracks are of like series on Netflix. I don't know if you noticed, like some of them have like amazing music. But I'm talking about my people music, which is a little bit older, but younger people are also getting their music from TikTok. They're getting it in
Hmm.
different ways than maybe my generation did, maybe YouTube. Suzanne, you're on the younger side. Where do you think people are getting their music from and what are they
Yeah,
listening to?
yeah. Also from TikTok, yeah, that's true. TV series, soundtracks.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's true. But also not only English. I think also when I was in high school, maybe we would listen mostly to English songs. And now I think kids also listen to Italian songs and listen Italy.
Oh,
But
songs in
also,
English?
yeah,
Mhm.
no. Also in
Can you
Spanish.
repeat that last thing? You kind of
Okay.
froze for a second.
Okay. No, I think they also listen to Spanish songs now.
Oh, music in other languages,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
interesting, right? When I was in
yeah,
school, there was no foreign music at all, and or even other languages. And now, if you look at what's happening in America, even with the Super Bowl halftime show, we've got Bad Bunny who's doing it in all Spanish this year. So I think this is very exciting. And in fact,
yeah.
when I was younger, oh, sorry, I'm like trying to get comfortable. All I wanted was to hear music in other languages, but in where I
Hmm.
lived in America, there wasn't much happening in that. But now you hear that there's much more international. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of French rap, a lot of other stuff happening. Good. Silvio, you answered in the chat. What do you think of the music that kids are listening to these
I would
days?
say that generally in the disco, because sometimes I go to the disco, some party disco events, there's generally reggaeton song and the house music.
Okay. Do you like
Yeah.
it?
Not really. I prefer 90s and 2000s songs. I don't like the current music.
Okay, okay. It looks like I think it's my internet connection, which might be a little bit unstable. So I hope that I'm still getting you can still hear me and see me, but sometimes if it's kind of frozen, I don't know why. Didn't
It
I
works.
upgrade during COVID? I should have like the best internet in the world, but apparently I share it with too many people. Let me go back to our thing and see if I can find the next question. Okay, this is kind of the same question, but in your opinion, what's the best kind of music and why? I think Silvio said 90s. Christina,
Also
you said
2000s, 90s and
2000s.
2000s, yeah.
Okay, Lanfranco, do you stick with 1920s and 30s, 30s and 40s? Oh, the crooners, you said. Can't hear you though. You have to turn on I can't hear you. You have to turn on your microphone, Lanfranco. I'm gonna
Yes, I think I love anyway the music of the 30s and the great band music,
Big band music,
the
great.
big band
Christina, what
music.
kind of music do
But
you
I
like?
wanted to add something about before, no? Because we in Italy,
Okay,
I have the idea that particularly young people, are oppressed and follow a lot of English music, a lot of English music.
a lot of what music? English
English
music.
music, no? And if I speak with Italian American, I know a lot of Italian American, Italian Canadian, they tell to me, in Italy we listen to English music, we love Italian music. For example, Ornella Vanoni, this tell me the Italian Americans, they love the real Italian music. And all the people
Sorry,
here in Italy listen to English music.
but I think that the Italian music of today is not a good music like in the past because
That is sure. That is sure.
he spoke about Ornella Vanoni, but 50 years ago, and this is not the new music. The new Italian music is not so good like in the past.
Yeah, I agree. This is true.
Why was it better in the past?
We had wonderful singers. We had wonderful
Why
singers.
the singers were different, the people were different, the world were different. Italy is not like Italy today has many influence from America, from England. Is no more so original. So I think
Yes,
Okay.
this is my opinion.
we had Italian groups who won international contest song, but they spoke in English. They spoke in
Sure.
English. Ah,
I
I
see
am
songwriter DeAndre, Dylan.
De
Okay,
André was another stuff.
good.
Well, but also
May
there are some.
Luna,
Okay.
may I add my 2 cents?
of course, please add your 2 cents. Great idiomatic
Like
expression.
like for what regards books, I think there are good books and bad books. There are good songs and bad songs. There are good singer and bad singer, and it's impossible for me to decide if the music in the past was better than in the current music. I think it's something that had to do with the ability, the talent of the uh, singer, the writer, the yeah. So
Thank you, Bruna. So my next question, unless someone else wants to add to this
But
point.
I just think, well, I'm from the younger side maybe, but I
Sure.
think that when I listen, for instance, to some love songs from the past. Sometimes I cannot see myself in them because their vision of love or romance is very different from me, from my point of view. And actually, when I listen to contemporary love songs, for instance, I can relate better with them. So to them.
Can you give, what's the difference? I mean, give me a little taste
Well,
of what it's like to be
yeah.
young, Suzanne.
So sometimes now I've been reflecting about that a little bit more. And for instance, some female singers, the way they talk about love is was more about, I'm here, I'm for you, I'm for your the man, And actually now they have this kind of more independent way of living love. So yeah, I'm a woman, I'm free, I love you, but I'm not sacrificing all my life for you. While in the past it was more like that. And also from boys, and male singers, they show more their fragilities. For me, they show, I don't know, their mental struggles, and I can relate with that too. I love that side. Actually, in the past I didn't see that. But this is only my opinion, and maybe it's the fact that it's my time, so I can relate better with these singers. And I love actually contemporary Italian singers. I love them. I don't
Thank
know.
you, Suzanne. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's interesting too that we have a nice mix of ages also because I think we can all be probably agree that our parents did not like our music. Did anyone have that experience where your parents were like, this isn't music? I remember my parents picking up like a cassette tape that I had and reading the names of the songs and being scandalized by, the names. Sometimes they had maybe a vulgar word in them. And this was like 30 years ago. So
Yeah.
I want to take a look. I do think that it's very maybe some of us older people have had a moment too where we found ourselves saying, this isn't music, talking about new music as if our music is so good, but it's exactly what our parents said and what their parents said. And I have proof of that because today, for the first time ever, I decided to do something that I said I would never do, and then I did it. I decided to ask Chat GPT. Yes, it's true, Suzanne. I decided to let ChatGPT tell me my lesson. So, no, I had the idea, but it was something I knew I couldn't put the information together. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to try it. So I asked this question. Well, for one thing, I have a perception. I know that slang and music and pop culture, the things that young people like, older people, we're not supposed to like it. It's supposed to not be for us, okay? So when you're young, you are trying to become independent. You want to be different than your parents. That's part of your job as a teenager, for example, is to be different than your parents. You need to think differently. You're trying to create your own path. If you listen to the same music as your parents, you watch the same things as your parents, you talk like your parents, you're not creating your path, right? So I started with that idea and I started to think about what different parents were saying about their children's music throughout the decades that we've been talking about. But then I thought, this is interesting because we also talked a lot in our lessons about African American culture and white culture. Okay. And I was curious to see what white parents were thinking and what black parents were thinking. And of course, by myself, I could not have done this. So I went to ChatGPT. Is it true? I don't know. It might be full of lies. But do you want to look at it with me? Should we take a look at the different decades and
Yeah.
see what the parents were thinking?
Yeah.
So, full transparency, this is not me. I did not write this. I took it from ChatGPT, okay, which gave me also references, which I didn't know it could do. So that was interesting. So I'm try to be a little more modern today. I feel terribly guilty, but at the same time, I found it very, very interesting. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. And I'm going to show you. Oh, so the next question was just simply, did your parents appreciate your music? I know they didn't. You don't even have to tell me. what kind of words did they use to describe it? I already know. They probably said that it was noisy, that it wasn't music, that the music was better in the past, etc. I know this is what they said. And if your parents didn't say that, well, what's wrong with them or with you? Of course, they're not supposed to love your music. Maybe a little bit of your music, but not all of it. And how did that make you feel? For most of us, we just sort of makes us feel like our parents are old and don't understand anything. And that's okay, because that's their job. So the title of what is Parent Complaints About Youth Music, Black American versus White American Parents from 1920s to 220s. So for each decade, ChatGPT gave me the top answer, but I chose the photo. So I just stole the photos from the internet. So 1920s, the African American parents were saying they were worried about nightlife and morals. Okay. Now you have to remember that in our lesson, we talked about the fact that before commercial music, before music was even put on records, most of the music that people were listening to was sheet music, and it was normally religious music. So you can imagine that if in your generation you were listening to religious music and your children are listening to recorded music, you can imagine that that must have been a big worry for some parents. So African American parents were concerned about reinforcing stereotypes. These are the times a lot of the most popular songs in America at the time were minstrel songs that were often very racist. And so, of course, if you're, African American at that time and hearing these same stereotypes being reinforced, that could be annoying, right? And then all of a sudden, also balancing criticism of the music with pride and innovation, right? Because of course, African Americans are contributing a lot to 1920s culture, right? So that was what the Black parents were saying. What about the white parents? And we saw this photo before. It's my favorite 1920s photo of the women with the drinking out of the bottles, right? But they saw jazz as immoral, right? Feared racial influence on white youth. So there was also this fear on the part of white parents that maybe Black influence was going to be too much for their children, right? And worried about dancing and rebellion, having rebellious kids like this. So, did they have something to worry about? Absolutely. Just like every generation has something to worry about, but everybody grows up anyway, usually, right? So, that was the 1920s. I love the flappers in this first picture. Remember the flapper girls they've got their
The black
the
flappers,
bell-shaped hats and the
black,
dresses. Just love it.
black flappers.
Yeah, exactly. Then we have the 1930s swing. African American parents, what were they saying? They were concerned about late night dance culture because remember people were going to these nightclubs, which were where people would go dance, maybe with a big band. We talked about some of them. We talked about in Harlem, we talked about the Savoy, we talked about the Cotton Club. So they were concerned about people going out late at night. They were worried about negative community judgment. We're all what will the neighbors say when they see you coming home at that hour, when they see you dressed that way? And they're very aware of police scrutiny of Black teens. So already in the 1930s, there was a problem with police brutality, police picking on Black people. We saw this again in hip hop culture in the 1970s, 80s, 90s. So it's not a new thing. It's always been there. And of course, I love the photo. I want you to notice in these first few photos how happy these people are. Look at the joy in this woman's face. Look at how much fun he's having. I love how they're dressed. I love how they're dancing. So that's the night of the swing. Then we have the white parents. What were they worried about in are we still in the 1930s? Yes, in the 1930s in the swing era. They're worried about wild dancing. I mean, look at that. Should they be worried? Absolutely. Look at them jumping around. They had anxiety about interracial spaces and they were concerned about youth rebellion. So the white people are always concerned that they're going to come into contact with Black people, right? What could possibly happen, right? So this racial fear already has always kind of existed, right? But in youth culture has always been interracial. It's always about mixing together. But for parents, this could be shocking, right? Then we have the 1940s, time of early R&B. Again, I love these photos. I love this photo here with this big jump here. So the white parents saw rhythm and blues, R&B, as morally corrupting, right? Oh, racial fear of race records. Remember, race records in the past were that was the name for black music. Okay, race is in the black, African American race. Okay, and they believed that the rhythms were dangerous or primitive. So when we talk about black music in the past, people often put these names on them, these labels, as if they're primitive, often with a racist connotation, of course. And African American parents were worried about the lyrics, about the words. Maybe they're too suggestive. Also, focused on respectability and worried about the public image of black young people. But I love this. This is a Lindy Hop. Look at how high this woman has jumped, right? I love this. And everybody's sort of looking up in awe, right? Then if we go to 1950s, of course, I have to put the picture of Elvis Presley because I think he spans both. He grew up on black music, on gospel music, and imitated as much as he could, but he was also very scandalous because of the way he danced, right? So African American parents in the 1950s were concerned about everybody's always worried about rebellious behavior. They wanted to avoid reinforcing stereotypes again, and they recognized musical opportunities. So that was something that was, music, entertainment was always a place where African Americans were very accepted, whereas in other parts of society, maybe less so. White parents were panicked over sexuality and again, rebellion. Nobody wants their kids to be rebellious, right? And racial anxiety, again, over black cultural influence. So this has been happening for decades and decades. White teens being interested in black culture, but the parents being very worried about this. So even though probably in their own time they were probably interested in it too, their children are, it's normal, but still considered a little bit dangerous. They saw rock music as a threat to white values. It's interesting is I haven't seen, at least in this list with ChatGPT, they never brought up country music. So I might have to do a more specific search because I'm sure country music had its share of people worried about it as well. Take a break to look at the chat here. Oh, probably this before. Okay. Now, if I go to 1960s, now in the 1960s, I'm looking more at the artists than I am at the dancers and the culture here because after the crooners actually 1940s, 50s, we stopped being focused on the genre of music and the dance, but more on the specific artist. So remember, there was that change that happened because of the music strike. Okay, so big band music kind of faded out. Then we started having the personalities, the crooners, the people who were not subject to the same rules as the other types of musicians, and that continued. And even today, we look a lot at the person, at the performers more than the genre. Okay, so the 1960s, the African American parents were very proud of Motown polish. That's nice because remember 1960s. That's when we start to see some of the greatest African American groups coming together and making music that really crosses over and becomes very, very popular. Mixed feelings about rising militancy. Remember, this is also the time of the Black Panthers and kids, young people, young African Americans are starting to be more vocal about identity politics and in civil rights, and that could be scary for parents, I'm sure. And there were concern about counterculture influences, whereas white parents viewed funk and soul as aggressive. They complained about noise and they feared cultural change, right? So there's always the white people are always afraid of this change. But I think that African American parents also had their own things they were worried about as well. The 1970s, funk, disco, early hip hop, African American parents were skeptical of rap's spoken style. So even African Americans had a difficult time accepting rap at the beginning, right? Everything seems sort of normal, but you can imagine that those first pioneers, maybe their parents didn't like it so much either. And they were worried about street culture impact. Remember that the 1970s street culture was about graffiti. Okay, the art form of graffiti that's now very appreciated was also considered a crime. Okay, and is still a crime, um, unless it's done in a way that's legal or organized. Okay, so you can imagine people worried that their children are going to get in trouble. Okay, also knowing about the police and black people, etc. They were also concerned over media stereotypes. So that's always something. How black people have been presented to the world in America has always been a problem, right? Then we have the white parents of the 1970s. They were complaining about, again, noise again, and unfamiliar sounds. 1970s, a lot of expression, a lot of experimenting, and maybe that seems like noise to people. And they criticized disco sexuality, and they saw funk as unruly. Then we get to the 1980s where the rise of rap and hip hop, you see some familiar faces here. Again, the 1980s was a time of personalities. We've got Robert Smith from The Cure here. We've got, Guns N' Roses. We've got, you know, Madonna, Prince, etc. So African American parents were concerned about profanity because now we're starting to hear a lot of bad words in the music, anger, fear of police targeting. Again, fear of police. We're going back to the 1920s. African American families are afraid for their children and the police. They still see hip hop as authentic expression, so now it's being more accepted. Okay, but white parents, moral panic around rap. Rap becomes like, oh, what does this mean? Racialized fear of violence, and often dismissed hip hop as not music. Okay, we still hear some of these comments today, right? But just in the 1980s, hip hop was just starting to cross over into white culture, also thanks to Aerosmith and Run DMC when they made their song together, Walk This Way. And there's some other moments where the Beastie Boys came out. They were a punk group that started doing rap music. And they were also a crossover group. They were appreciated both by African Americans and by white Americans. So that for parents, this was like, what's going on? What's going to happen to my children? Okay, and then we get to 1990s, especially gangster rap. Here's some of the groups you might recognize from that time. And African American parents were worried about glamorizing violence. We talked about this last week in our lesson. There are people talking about the language that's used glorifying violence, especially in gangster rap. We talked about the feud or we talked about the deaths of the Notorious B.I.G. We talked about Tupac Shakur. So obviously parents were worried about their kids as well. Concern about reinforcing stereotypes. Again, this has always been a constant. And debates over authenticity versus harm, which is interesting. White parents were worried that rap would corrupt their white teens. They were complained about misogyny and violence, and they viewed rap as a dangerous subculture. So this is still in the 90s, okay? Everybody's worried what's going to happen if we're in contact with black people. And then the 2000s, okay, more recent. African American parents are concerned about hypersexual videos, okay? There are critiques about colorism, classism, and his appreciation of economic opportunities. Whereas the white parents are focused on explicit lyrics again, concerned about materialism and less racially framed criticism. So starting in the 90s, people aren't worried so much about the mixing. Maybe it becomes more normal, but still criticism, but not so much racially based. And then 2010s, trap and streaming culture. So this is where we have what's going on, how people get access to their music now. Most kids are streaming their music and not buying it the way we used to, for example. African American parents are concerned about drug references. They worry about algorithm-driven stereotypes. Again, because also ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, we know that also really reinforces gender stereotypes, racial stereotypes. So we have to be very careful with it. White parents Oh, concerned about online identity pressure. Okay. And white parents, similar moral concerns about drugs and sex, worried about screen exposure. Okay. And there's less focus on racial implications. So the white people seem to be like settling down finally, like, okay, we can do this. And then finally, the 2020s trap, drill, viral music. Some of the people you may recognize. African American parents are fear of real world violence consequences. There's concern about exploitation of Black trauma. There's a criticism of hypersexual social media trends. And white parents are concerned about violent or explicit content. They're focused on moral decline and, again, paying less attention to racial context. So now we're starting to get to this point where everybody's worried about screen time for their kids. They're worried about what they're in contact with. I think everybody's worried at this point. So that was the 2020s. So in general, parents of all races complained about morals. Oops. Oh, yeah. What did I? Okay. They complained about morals, noise, rebellion, sexuality, and influence behavior. But their motivations differed. African American parents emphasized respectability politics, fear of stereotypes, real world risks, policing, discrimination, and cultural pride. White parents emphasized preserving social norms and moral panic, and fear of cultural or racial influence. So, are the complaints the same? And this is what ChatGPT said. It said, both white and African American parents have consistently complained about sexuality, rebellion, noise, or non-traditional sounds, influence on behavior, and negative moral impact. But they put this great thing at the end, which was this. Oh, they gave me a little table here so that I could compare them, which I thought was very nice. Okay, and then, oh, I lost it at the end. Oh, shoot, they put this great sentence at the end, which was that something about how one generation's noise will eventually become nostalgia for another generation. So I'm going to stop sharing. And that was what ChatGPT gave me. I'm sorry that I read it to you, which I find very boring. But at the same time, I hope it was big enough so that you could follow with me. You have the link so that you can also read it too. You can look at the table that compares them. And now I'm going to open it up to discussion. So what do you think? Was anything there that surprised you? Did you find it interesting? I have to say it was a good experience because it took about 5 seconds to put together this list. From one very specific question, I was able to get the answer I was looking for. And for all of the decades we're talking about. So that gives us some time to talk. So I'm opening up for your reactions.
So I totally agree that music died in 2010s.
Why you agree with who?
Yeah.
You declare that. I don't think it died in the 2010s. Oh, but why do you say that?
Because from 2010, there was like a decline, and the the songs talk too much about drugs and swear words.
Okay, so you sound like a parent
Yeah.
because that's exactly what they're saying, right? Too many swear words to this. So I have a feeling that this is not music that you grew up with. You prefer the music that you grew up with. Is that correct?
90s and 2000s, I would say.
Okay, good. All right. Any other comments?
The name is GPT. Chat GPT. It is an
Yeah.
interesting thing. Huh? Yeah, it is the first time that I observe how does it work.
Yeah, it was interesting. And it
It's
took about
great.
5 seconds. And I used the free version. I don't pay for it.
Mhm.
And again, I think it can be a useful tool but you have to be transparent. I think it's important to tell people you're using it and even for students to learn how to use it. Like, for example, for me today, it was really interesting because it allowed me to make this big comparison that I was interested in, but I had no way of getting all that information in the time I
But
needed. So I found it interesting. What do you
yes,
think?
I noticed that in every period, the worries are all the same. Uh, the black people adds a racial problem, no? And the
We're
white
worried
people
about
in that,
stereotypes or
yes,
how they're
yes.
perceived, right?
But at the beginning, the same have the same parent. All the parents have the same problems in all in all the history of the music, no? In all the
Exactly.
history of the music. Then after there is the racial problem,
Right.
and
And then the racial problem that kind of goes away for white people, but not for black people, which is
repeat,
interesting,
please.
right? Because even now, I notice how people talk about like white people never really, they say, oh, I don't see color. Well, easy for you because you don't have to worry about it. But black people do a lot because they're still suffering the consequences. So I thought that was a very interesting change in the perceptions of even
And
what people are worried about.
another thing in the black people, they began to see a little bit the music like a job, like an opportunity.
Sure. Sure.
More
Yeah,
than
which is
that,
interesting, right? In the white stuff that didn't come out, but in the African American parents, it seemed like okay, this is something that could take us
it
somewhere. That
happens
was
up,
interesting too. Yeah.
it happens up in the white families too, but in GPT, GPT stresses it only only in the black families.
Sure. And again, we don't know if this is all true. We know this is what it's giving us from the different sources it has. It could be wrong, it could be over exaggerated, it could be under exaggerated. We don't know, but it's an interesting study, right? So if you use ChatGPT, of course, now they also give you links that you can go and verify the information. You can find out if it's a credible source, etc. But in this case, it was just sort of interesting to say what was written about this at the time. Where were people commenting? Because most of these comments were coming from articles that were coming out, interviews. So I wasn't too worried about how true it was because it's just kind of what information is available. So it was an interesting exercise.
Yes,
Thank you,
you're welcome.
Lanfranco. Bruna,
Uh, I was thinking about, um, I was wondering, why are parents so worried about music? Because music can bring with it uh, also a way of life or a way to behavior. You tend to maybe to make to play some games, to make some things, or yeah, there is a part of a more general condition, and of course, if in a song drugs are glorified, parents can believe that children or teen can follow and take this as an example, and also maybe the way you dress, the maybe the sport you do, skateboard or this or that
sure.
more than
Yeah.
others, and so you tend to follow maybe a sort of uh, yeah, maybe also a stereotype, and following the value or the contrary of the value that this genre offer.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. And we only talked about music, right? We didn't talk about the fact that right now, I hear myself, like I sound like an old woman saying, "Get off your phone, you're always on your phone." And I remember my parents saying, "Get off the phone." We were on the phone that was hooked to the wall talking to our friends. Get away from the TV. Then it was before that, it was um comic books. Stop reading comic books. I think every generation we have these worries that something's going to happen, that, people are going to, I don't know, hear about drugs and then start doing drugs, or they're going to, so I think it's just something we've always done. We're always worried about what we don't know, right? Oh, there's a teenager right there.
Yeah. Eva.
But excuse me,
Escaped right away. Doesn't want to be around me. Just escaped as fast as she could.
excuse me.
What about?
I think that music is also fun and not
Yeah.
and not only an expression of life of another way of life. The music is 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 a fun is must be
It's entertaining. It's fun. Absolutely. I agree.
we have not only to think that music is an expression of a specific kind of life, of a revolution of the life, and so on. I think, for me, in my opinion, I like music because music gives me fun. This is.
I agree. And I think there's even research that says that music can give you the same kind of like brain hit that
Yes.
you can get from doing drugs. Dopamine, it gives you, it can bring you up, it can bring you down. I know that when I'm sad, I've got music
Yes.
I listen to when I'm sad. I have music I listen to when I'm happy. Sylvia says music is history. Yeah, music is so much. In fact, I can't imagine my life without music, because as a teenager, I think it helped me survive being a teenager. Being a teenager is really difficult. And there's so much happening around you and in you. And I think that music really is a way that kids can kind of make sense of the world. They can escape from the world. They can also see the world in a different way. Music also helps us have empathy for people because we get people's stories, just like literature can also give us empathy. So I think you're right. We can't underestimate the importance of music. Music is life, right? Music is storytelling. It's entertaining. It calms us. It makes us join together. Just think of all those experiences of experiencing music together in a big group at a concert. It could be a classical music concert. It could be a concert of your favorite group. It could be your friends playing. I mean, I think music has such power. And I think you're right. We talk about how our parents are, but in the end, I remember one of the things I always appreciated was my mother. She didn't like all of my music, and she let me know what she didn't like, but she also really liked some of my music. And sometimes, even now, when I go visit my mom in America, I always check her playlist, see what she's listening to. And then she might just say, "Hey, what are you listening to? Why don't you put on your music today?" And she also did that with my daughter, who you saw pass before. And she's 15. And so to have a grandma say to her, "Hey, what are you listening to? I want to hear it too," I think for her felt really special. So I think we can try to remember with other people to have a little bit of remember too that even though we don't have access to it right now, if we get familiar with it, maybe we will have a little bit of an opening into it. Yeah, and thank you, Bruna, for reminding us that without music, there's no dancing. And dancing, it's key, right? How did we survive all those things? Like, I think COVID, I got through music, but when we could dance again, oh my gosh, the best parties end with dancing. With that, I bid you farewell, but we shall see each other next week. Bring your phone. Remember, we're going to play a game with our phone. We're going to play a Kahoot, and we'll see who's the fastest and the smartest and who knows the most about our lessons. So thank you so much for being with me again tonight. This has been such a fun series of lessons. I'm so happy and grateful to be with you, and I will let you be free now. So I'll see you soon. See you next week.
See
Thank
you.
you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Is there a prize?
Huh?
Hey, thank you.
Is there a prize for the quiz show?
I don't know. Of course there's gonna be a prize. I don't know what yet, but I'll have to think about it.
The glory,
Something special.
the
We'll see.
glory for
The Dennis
The
Cup.
glory, of course.
The
Definitely
glory.
glory,
Glory.
prestige, and everything else. We'll see.